Hello and welcome back to the Zouk line. My name's Adam. Today we're going to get real nerdy. Real nerdy. Okay, so back in 2017 when I was training, my coach had come to me one day and she had said, hey, my event's coming up and I think you should do Jack and Jill. And I said, okay, what is Jack and Jill? And she just sort of like, yeah, just do it and you'll figure it out. And it was right at that moment that I had wished I had something to tell me what it is, how it worked, you know, just a little bit of a primer so I knew what it is I was getting into. Because I made a bunch of assumptions about what it was, and now that I've been doing them for years, since from 2018 up to current day, I've just learned a lot, and there was a lot that I wish that I knew back then. So that's what the goal of this video is to give a primer to those who are thinking about doing it, and as well as going deep, and I mean deep into the numbers with those who have been doing it, but they're wondering where they should take it next. Should they continue with it? Should they go deeper? Should they pull back? So that's the goal of this video. So we're just going to jump right in and go right to the slides. So here we go. This is JnJ Primer, and the purpose of this presentation is to answer practical questions for new dancers, share important aspects, blah, blah, blah. Just what I said. All right. So first, this is Brazilian Zouk, Jack and Jills, and so there's the premise is that this is like dance as a sport, right? And so some of the things with any given sport, like we want the rules to be clear, 2, anyone can win, and 3, everyone has a fair shot at the championship. Like that's what I've always expected any kind of like competition to be. And so that's also one thing we're going to explore in this video is this true for Brazilian Zouk? First, let's establish a few things. And by the way, if you already know about Brazilian Zouk and what it is and Jack and Jills and all that, then you can skip to that timestamp. So you can skip past all this if you just want to get to the nerdy stuff. Because for a little bit, we're going to get everybody up to speed. Okay. But if you want to write out this early part, let's go. All right. So Brazilian Zouk Dance Council. It's an organization that tracks points. So it's a collection of Brazilian Zouk dancers that usually have been doing it for a long time, and it's their way of kind of having a hand in the direction of the dance. It's composed primarily, and I don't know there's 100%, but it's near 100% like Brazilians, people from Brazil that are really into this dance, and many of them are pioneers of the dance. If you want to learn more about this organization, you can check out the website there at the bottom, BrazilianZoukCouncil.com. Okay, so where and how much does it cost? So these competitions that the Brazilian Zouk dance, the BZDC that they hold, they happen at dance events all around the world. Oftentimes there'll be like 1 or 2 a month in the U.S. and they also happen in Europe and in South America, well, in Brazil as well. There's like 1 in Mexico, but yeah. You can Google it, of course. Okay, let's keep it moving. We have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to rush through some of this early stuff. But yeah, the cost of it. So the cost is the cost of a full pass plus the competition itself. So at a given event, you might have to pay for a full pass to the event, which you almost always have to buy a full pass. So that's going to run about $200 to $300 in this day and age. And so on top of that, you're going to need to pay the entrance fee to the competition, which is like, $20 to $30, we'll say. Well, yeah, in that ballpark. So the cost to join is about, we'll call it $200 to $275 in that ballpark. And the competitions will oftentimes span over 2 days. So keep in mind, you'll have to pay for travel and your hotel and all that stuff. So unless it's local, you're looking at anywhere from $200 and up. The competitions, how do they work? So first, there are various rounds. So there's a preliminary round, and the way that works is you're typically paired with 3 or 4 different dance partners, and you're evaluated on an individual process, okay? And so anyway, so when you get your first partner, they'll play 2, maybe 3 songs, and you'll just dance, and you'll be evaluated on your own. You're not evaluated as a couple, it's by yourself, and then the judges, they'll take notes, and then if they want to pass you on to the next round, then they will send you on. If there's enough people, then there'll be a semifinal round, and then they'll do the same thing all over again, where like you'll dance with another couple people, and then the judges will take note, and they'll send you on, or they won't. So once you have, like, once you go through those stages, the MC or the coordinator, the people that are running the competition, they'll make an announcement in one way or another. Oftentimes they'll just say it over the mic. Sometimes they'll put up a post, like a piece of paper somewhere in the venue, or now they're even posting it on Facebook or Instagram. There'll be some way of letting you know if you made it through to the final round. Now, when you see the score sheet, this is what it looks like. The J scores over here, like the J1, 2, 3, that shows the judges. That's letting you know who the judges are, and these are the scores that they gave. Now, oftentimes this can be a little confusing, but and it varies from event to event, like the actual number here. But what this is saying is that, okay, for this particular dancer, all 4 judges gave this person a pass on to the next round. And so more or less, the more points you have, the more likely it is that you will be going to the next round. And if you don't have many points for whatever reason, then you'll be an alternate, or you'll get a no, meaning that you did not continue on to the next round. By and large, the way this works from a judge's perspective is they have X number of people that they can pass on, and they have X number of people that they're supposed to say are alternates, and then the no's. And so for them, it's just like yes, maybe, no, basically is how it works. But long story short, on the right hand side here, you'll see callback, and then that lets you know if you made it back for finals or not, or if you are a alternate. Now in finals, congratulations, you made it to finals, right? And so from here, you get paired with a partner, and then that's your partner for the rest of the competition, and then you are now a unit. So as you continue, like in this competition, like it's the 2 of you, you don't switch, you don't do anything, it's just 2 of you. And it's the same sort of thing where you'll dance 2 or more songs. Most of the time it's like 2, maybe 3. And the songs will be like 90-second clips of a song. So it's not the entire song, it's about half of the song, a couple phrases. In finals, it's usually one that's upbeat and one that's a little more downbeat. And also this kind of varies a little bit as you progress through the various levels. But that's kind of the broad stroke of it. Now, depending on what level of competition that you're doing, like if you're in the novice or the newcomer level, when you're in the finals, there's a bunch of different couples that are all in finals, and they're all in a circle. The judges you'll be dancing around the judges, and they'll evaluate you the same way they did for intermediate, or for the preliminary and semifinals. If you're in some of the higher levels, then you might have battle style, where there'll be 2 couples. They're dancing next to each other, and you'll be dancing at the same time to the same 2 songs. But it's a tricky battle because you're listening to the crowd respond, and you don't know if they're responding to you or the person next to you. So it's something to play with and get used to. Okay. Jack and Jills in general, they draw a crowd. So that's something to be aware of and something to be prepared for. So if you get stage fright from performing in front of people, that's one thing to work on. Now the scoring in finals is done by consensus. So what the judges are asked here is, like, let's take this for example. So we have the judges all place this person in first place, right? It's actually kind of rare that all the judges agree on something like this. But yes, in this case, the judges all said, yes, first place to this person. And if we look at the individual judge score here, so J1, what they're asked to do is they're asked to rank everybody in order. So they thought that they should get first, Guy should have gotten second, Shub should have got third, and so on and so forth, all the way down to last place. And so you'll see a bunch of noise. I won't call it noise, but just a lot of almost sometimes chaos, like as we get further down the line. I think it's hard just to keep so many people in your mind, and that's tricky for the judges, especially after you get past the first 3 or 4. But that's how the judging works. And then how do you know if you won or not? Well, at the end of the last finals, usually that night, or just depending on how the coordinator, later in the night, they'll announce the winners. And then you'll know if you got first through third, usually right then and there, first to third. And then for the later fourth on, they'll usually either post that online on the Brazil and Zouk Dance Council website, or they will sometimes they'll have like the sheet, the actual printout of the sheet, you know, on a counter somewhere at the event. One way or another, you'll find out. If you got top 3, you'll know very quickly. What do you win? Fame. No, you don't really win any. I mean, you're not required to win anything. Once upon a time, there was a rule that said that the organizers must give a prize. And this is like, I think this is the label from the West Coast Swing days, because Jack and Jills, as they are in Brazilian Zouk, they were directly lifted from West Coast Swing. Well, from an old version of West Coast Swing. West Coast Swing has changed a lot since then, but it was lifted from West Coast Swing, and just the rules in that world is they have to give you a prize. Here, they don't have to give you anything. Like they changed it to where there's no requirement. So you don't. But most often, and most commonly, you'll win a trophy and maybe a pass to another event. So if you're looking to, you know, for this to be profitable, or at least to cover the cost of Jack and Jill or the trip, probably isn't going to happen. Yeah. I mean, you know, what's nice too is you'll oftentimes be able to get, especially as you go as you progress through the layers, you'll likely get a nice video of yourself, which is nice. Okay. So the rules, like all the rules are online. It's good to read through them if you're going to try it out. I mean, some of the major points are clothing. You need to dress nice but comfortable. You got to wear shoes. Etiquette, no lifts or dangerous moves. No props, no nudity, you know, things like that. Also, if you're going to try this, I would say when you go to your first event, oftentimes at many events, they'll have like a Jack and Jill sort of primer course. And what it's designed to do is it's to give you just an idea of what to expect at that particular event, how they're going to run it, and they'll mention general things as well. And they'll mention how there are aspects of it that aren't fair, and it's, you know, this is designed to be fun. And so it'll just get you, you know, in the mindset. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go ahead and take that course. I mean, it's like a free thing. It's included in your pass, so you don't have to pay extra for it typically. And then, of course, the rules are on this at this link here. And you can find the results here. So, yeah. Moving on. So the competition itself, it's divided into more than 6 different skill levels. So at the lowest, we have newcomer, which there's no requirement at all. That's very much for fun. And it's just a good time. And it's actually kind of rare. As far as I know, I think there's only 2, maybe 2, or at least 2 newcomer events in the world. And I'm sure there'll be more in the future, but right now I think there's just a handful. After that is novice. This is where most dancers are required to start. After that, we have intermediate, followed by advanced, all-star, and champion. All-star and champion, they're actually 2 different categories, but it's so sparsely populated with dancers that they just combine them into one, and those dancers all dance together. And the way that you climb from one to the next, like let's just say you started, like newcomer, there is no climbing out. It's completely optional. But with novice, the way you climb out of there is you have to earn 20 novice points, right? And they have different point structures based on where you are, like what your current level is. So if you're a novice, you have to earn 20 points. The way you earn 20 points, that depends on the number of competitors in your same role. So if I am a leader and I'm competing against 10 other leads, then that puts me in tier 1, which means that I'm available to earn 5 points off of that competition. And that goes all the way up to 15 if I'm competing against 15 other leaders, right? If I'm in tier 2, that's 16 to 39, tier 3 over 39, you get 15 points. And so if I got first place in tier 1, that means I get 5 points. If I get second place, then I get less points. You get 4 points. You know, like it depends on the number of competitors, and there's a whole formula. That formula is outlined in the rules in the previous in the link that's on the website. But just overall, just know that you get first place, you get the max amount of points, and then less points as you go down the line. Also, there are other divisions. There's pro, there's invitational. There's just I even think there's in the rules. I think there's like a junior and a senior. There's a bunch of different categories. But in Brazilian Zouk currently, there's only really newcomer, novice, intermediate, advanced, and all-star. So, but hopefully, they will add some of these other divisions to give more people more shots at the gold, at the glory. So let's just say you're feeling yourself as a dancer and you're like, oh, I'm too good to start novice. I'm not a novice dancer. Well, you don't have to start in novice. I mean, they have a solution for that, which is petitioning. So new dancers, you can petition for, you don't have to petition for novice or newcomer. As I said, you can just join those. For the other levels, according to the rules, you are asked to petition and get approval from the Brazilian Zouk Dance Council. You can look at these 2 links to learn more about that process and the request sheet. I think they're required to send in a video. And also there's a rule now too where in order to petition, you have to have 5 points in the division that you want to petition out of. There's also a teaching exception when it comes to petitioning where you have 5, if you teach for 2 years, then you can just start an intermediate. And the goal with that, as they say, is that they don't want teachers to be competing with their students, right? It's a kind of an awkward position to be put in. So I think they're trying to get around that. You can learn more about that with that link on the bottom of the screen now. Okay, so that is the primer of just competitions in Brazilian Zouk Dance Council, all of that. And so now that we've established it, are you ready for the deep dive? This is when it gets nerdy, and this is when a lot of the dancers that are interested in the numbers are going to return. So hello and welcome back, other dancers. Okay, so first, who is this guy? Who am I? So my name is Adam Craig. I'm a dancer, teacher, organizer. Cali Zouk is my group here in LA. I'm a podcaster. I do the Zouk line, which is this video is for. But I've been doing Jack and Jill since 2018, and I've done 26 of them across North America, Asia, and Brazil. And via points, I've climbed through novice, intermediate, and I'm now in advanced. I'm at the bottom of advanced now. I just crossed over not too long ago. And so I have a lot of time and a lot of experience in this realm, and I'm hoping to share some of this with you to make your life a bit easier. Okay, the devil is in the data. So this presentation, the whole presentation and all the stats we'll see coming up, it relies on about 10 years of Jack and Jill competition data, as well as my own personal experience. And so some things are going to be spicy and taboo, and I don't want to upset anyone in the community. I mean, it's bound to happen considering the topic, but my goal isn't, I'm not trying to create any problems for myself or for anyone else. So I'll try to keep my opinions separate from the facts, and then we will go from there. But I just ask that you all make your own assessments based on the data. Speaking of the data, where is it? So the scores, they're viewable on the Brazilian Zouk Dance Council website, but they are hosted on Dance Place. And Dance Place, it's a ticket portal. It's an organization system, and they work very, very closely with the Brazilian Zouk Dance Council to run all of these events. And so they also manage the database. They also, I mean, quite honestly, it's a little surprising, this opinion here. I'm actually surprised so many people trust them because they have all the data. They know who is buying tickets, how much they're paying, what the attendance rates are. They've got all the data. So they have an incredible amount of control over the entire Brazilian Zouk Dance Council scene. But that's the way it works. And that being said, they have all the Jack and Jill data, but they don't have an API, as far as I was able to discern. So I had to be patient and then just persistently, manually collect and reconstruct all of this data. So the data, it's accurate. It's fairly accurate. So I had to download and reconstruct all of these points and these events and put them together in a database in order to do any of this analysis. Now the data itself, it has errors in it, but anytime you take a bunch of public data and reconstruct it, you're bound to introduce more noise into the signal. And so I've done my best to try to make the data as accurate as possible, but it's not going to be 100% accurate. And there's some artifacts that are just very difficult for me to solve. And with time, I'll see if I can make them even more accurate. But I'm pretty confident in the data as it is. But there are some known issues. Like, for example, if you competed under one name and then you changed your name, then that's going to show up as 2 entries in the data. Okay, so I know that is the case with a number of dancers, and there's not a real easy way for me to get around that without probably breaking the terms of service of the website, which I don't want to do. I don't want to get any kind of like trouble with anyone with this project. So there is just, long story short, there is a little bit of noise in the data, but overall my goal is to look at trends in the data. And so if there's a little bit of noise in the trend, you know, that's fine, but we're looking for the broad strokes. Okay, all right, I'll get on with it. All right, so the first interesting thing that I found were that half the dancers, they're what I'm calling ghost dancers. And so in order to earn a Brazilian Zouk Dance Council number, you have to progress pretty far into the competition. And so I was curious about the people who don't actually make it that far in the competition and what their experience might be. And so here on the website, we see that it's showing 3,300 more or less. And then here I'm showing just of dancers without numbers. And so, sorry, these are the dancers with Brazilian Zouk Dance Council numbers, showing at about 3,516, and then without 3,479. So, you know, there's half the dancers, they just never are known about or seen. The next thing, what I'm also seeing here, so I decided to break that number up into leaders and follows. And so here we have followers, and we see, and these are of the dancers with and without. The with is the blue, which those are colorblind, that is the shorter one. And then the orange here, that is without Brazilian Zouk Dance Council. So here we see that follows, they have a lot harder of a time, you know, climbing the ranks in the competitions. And same thing on the leaders, it's much less prominent, but there is still, you know, the majority of the people who compete never get very far. Next metric here, this is the frequency of events competed in by dancers without a Brazilian Zouk Dance Council number. So as we see here, 1. Now this was actually very surprising to me because about 2,500 dancers, they tried one time and then never returned. And then it drops down here to people that have tried twice at 528, and then, you know, it really dips off. And so these are people that have tried and then never made it in. Of note, also, there's even a few people. There's one person made up to 16 attempts. Here's one with 15 attempts, and they never, they just never made it. It's pretty, yeah, pretty fascinating to me. Let's go move on to the newcomer category. So what we're looking at here are, these are the, what are these? Oh, cumulative points, right. Did I skip a, no I didn't, okay. We're still on it. We're still rolling, okay. So this is the cumulative point distribution. So these are the number of dancers and the number of points that they have. So here on this y-axis, we see that we have 76 dancers with 0 points, 107 with, you know, over. But overall, what we see here is that a lot of dancers have quite a few points. I mean, these are small competitions, which is great, but also this shows that this is, you know, this is probably a fun event to compete in because a lot of people have a lot of points. So it's a lot easier to enjoy this because you can feel the progression. So you know, after looking at this data, it's actually made me a bit more excited for the newcomer dancers. You know, I think that I would encourage people. Previously, I would be like, I don't know why you would do newcomer, but now it's like, oh, because it's fun. It seemed like it would be fulfilling and fun. Okay, so let's look at dancers. This slide should have been before the previous, but that's okay. So let's look at dancers after they have gained a point. The 1 point barrier. So this is the point distribution for people in novice. And what we see here at the 1 point going from 1 to 2 points, it drops way off. And so a lot of dancers, what, 2/3 of the dancers that once they hit 1 point, they're like, good, I'm good to go. I'm not going to compete anymore. Right. And this could also have to do with the way how large novice has become, and how they how there's a bit of a randomness in novice, and so that could demonstrate that. Who knows? But also, quick note: the 0 metric here, that has to do with that's showing people who made it to finals in novice, but they ended up not getting any points. Okay, so technically this number is much higher. This would be the closer to 2,000, because if anyone that's competed in novice but they haven't scored a point yet, they would be at 0. But this is kind of an artifact of the data. But anyway, as we see, it goes up and it kind of distributes out kind of interestingly and pretty evenly, even though it's kind of a stair-stepping, at various times. Moving on. Now let's look at intermediate. So in intermediate, we have the 1 point barrier here as well, where it's like people get 1 point and then the people who keep competing, they fall off again. And we see the same sort of stair step, but it's much more steep here. Oh, real quick. Yes, my note here. So in my opinion, intermediate is the most fun category. I think it's the most fair. It's the most fun. You're sandwiched in between, like in the novice level, you have a lot of people who are just brand new. They're fresh out of the gate. And in advanced, it's just a different ball game. You're dealing with a lot of instructors, a lot of that. And novice is this sweet spot right in the middle where most of the time I agree with most of the results. Like you're like, yeah, no, they were definitely first. Oh, they were definitely, like, you can kind of see it coming together, and you also see dancers really develop pretty quickly, I think, in the intermediate category. Intermediate is so fun to watch and to be a part of. So I highly recommend intermediate. All right, so the 1 point barrier. What's interesting here is it rolls back to 0 in advanced. So this is showing that there are 40 or so people in advanced that have 0 points. I'm one of these 40, by the way. But what's interesting about this point distribution is, like, does this indicate like a psychological barrier that has hit these dancers? Is it burnout? Who knows? But anyway, this is the point distribution at advanced. The 0 point barrier exists at All-Star. So same thing, but it's even more prominent here in All-Star. And so again, we have 15 people with 0 points, and then after that, it's a little bit chaotic as you climb up. But what's interesting is it only goes up to 20, by the way, because in order to get through All-Star, you need 40 points. But I guess no one's just gotten those 40 points. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. To get through advanced, or to get through All-Star, you need 120 points in order to progress into champion. Which, let's be honest, it's just invite only. There's no way it's impossible to acquire those many points the way it is. So they changed the rule. It used to be invite only by rule, and then they just said 120 points, but still it's effectively invite only. And at the current participation rates, even for All-Star or for Advanced, you need to get... Oh, maybe I should cut this part. I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to say real quick. You have to get first place in Tier 1 24 times to move up from All-Star. Okay, that's a ton. I mean, even in Advanced, you have to do that multiple times. I think it's about 8 times in order to move from Advanced into All-Star. You have to win a lot. Personally, I think there should be a 3-and-out rule, is my opinion. But meaning, like, if you get first place 3 times, you're on to the next category. I mean, that's my opinion, but whatever. We'll come to my opinions later. So, okay, what's the takeaway from these charts? To me, I think, in this opinion, I think something's kind of odd with some of these charts, because it tells a story about dancers and their interest or desire to continue, and it seems that there are barriers when a lot of people just fall off, when, you know, whether it be 1 point in novice or 1 point in intermediate or 0 in advanced and in all-star, like something is weird with the data. Like something doesn't quite make sense. And so we have to assume that after 10 years that these are, that the system is working as intended. So let's look at the system itself then. So let's ask, how many events do successful dancers tend to attend? So we look here at novice. Looks like most novice dancers, they attend, as far as they compete, in just one event. They get one event and then they're out. And then we see here 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it drops off again. Same kind of thing. That that the persistence is pretty low when it comes to this, to novice. For intermediate, same story. Drops way off. Although there's like a little interesting little wave here at about nine events. That is fascinating to me. I wonder if that is. I theorize that is like a cohort of dancers who are all, you know, like they all learn together and they're all competing together and they're all sort of working their way together. That's what I wonder. Advanced falls dramatically after 1 point, and then yeah, from 70 down to 25, and then much lower. And again, remember these numbers aren't going to be exact, but it should be close. All-star, same thing, drops off quite a bit. Wow, 31 participants. 31. Well, that's probably one of the organizers. Okay. Next thing, how long is a Zouker's dance lifespan? So so in order to kind of grasp the experience of a dancer, I wanted to find out what is the lifespan, like how long does the average competitor show up and then go away. So the way that I decided this is I set their sort of birth date is on their first event, and then I considered them inactive after a year of no competitions. And so after that year, then I set their last competitive date as their last date. Okay, so so that's what we're working off of. If anyone knows, people who know how to read this chart, condenses a lot of information into one chart, but it's pretty crazy, which we're going to get into as we continue. Okay, so there's lots of variation, but long story short, most dancers, they come and go within 3 years, less than 3 years. And these charts, these show the different categories. We have newcomer here, novice here, intermediate here, and advanced. Now each dot represents a specific dancer, and the y-axis shows the active lifespan in terms of days. Okay, and as far as the x-axis, that's cropped off because those are individual dancer names, right? And I don't want to. It's just too many names to show on one chart, so I chopped that off. But all that we really care about with these various graphs are just the distribution of the people. So we move on here. We're just zooming into the novice category, and then we kind of see the two lines here. So the green line, which is the top one, that is showing us the average lifespan of a dancer, that if we exclude the people who have competed one time and never came back again. Remember, the vast majority come and go in one go. So this is excluding those people. Now for the red, this is including those people. Okay, so it's kind of a nice visual, but what are the actual numbers? Let's find out. Now these are the numbers with the zeros included, right? So if we include people who competed one and done, and we increase that into the average, this shows that most advanced dancers, a year, all-star, 2 years, intermediate, a year, invitational, invitational, you have to be invited to that, but it says a year. Newcomer, very short, 31 days, in fact, and novice, about 3/4 of a year, 9 months. So that's one metric, but let's look at it if we don't include the one and dones. So for newcomer, it looks like newcomers, and again, this newcomer could have to do a lot with the fact that there aren't that many newcomer events, but it's showing, 0.64, 0.64, about a half a year before they become inactive. Novice, looks like we are about 2 years, intermediate, 2 years, Advanced 2 years, All-Star 3.8 years. So the dancer lifespan is quite limited. It's not what you might think, because a lot of the dancers that we see, they do it a lot, and they're outliers. And I suppose by definition they'd be outliers because you see them a lot, so that means they're competing a lot. So this is a nice chart that shows how long does it take to move up and get points for each division. Okay, and so each horizontal line is for each division. So let's dive in a little deeper here. Novice. Okay, so I just highlighted novice, and then of course you can do this for any other of the divisions. But the highlighted box here, it's saying that, and this was last updated October 7th. But for the novice category, of the 5,507 unique dancers, 380 have completed the division requirements via points. And it takes on average 144 days to get your first point. Now this is for the people who didn't get a point right away. But 819 on average complete the division, let me back up. It takes on average 144 days to get your first point, 819 days on average to complete the division. So what is this getting at? This is saying in novice, there is about a 6.9 to 7% like completion rate. So it's quite small. It's quite small to move from novice and intermediate that only about 7% will continue through, at least with current stats. It's also saying too that this is just kind of a fun stat. I don't know how useful it is, but it's saying that of the 1,541 of the total of 5,000, they got their first point on their first attempt, which is interesting too. Although I don't know if that's useful, because the size of novice has fluctuated a lot given the change in the size of events, but also it's changed a lot in terms of what am I trying to say? I lost my train of thought. This is nerdy. This is nerdy stuff. But this is just saying, like, your first time out, if you're going to compete, you're looking at about a 1 in 3 chance of getting a point. If you were in this imaginary world of averages, right? But if you go to a large event, you're going to have a much harder time than 1 in 3, because just the math doesn't work out that way. I know. Yeah, it's a lot. What am I getting at? All we're driving at is the ultimate question: how long does it take to get through division? In novice, you're looking at about 2 years to get through novice, or about 4.8 events, so 4 or 5 events. In intermediate, 3.1. Average, you're looking at about 9 events. Advanced, you're looking at about 3 or 12 events. And this is per division, by the way. This isn't like, oh, I'm going to get to advanced in 11 events. No. It means to get through advanced, it takes that much. Or to get through intermediate, it takes about 9 events. So, the cost. All right, so money is often taboo in this, and it's just something that I think is important and it's worth considering. So for me, I'm in LA, and in order for me to compete on a regular basis, I can't call in favors all the time, so I have to pay for a lot of this stuff. I just put just like a rough, back of napkin figure. Like for each trip, these things vary. But long story short, my estimates is that it costs about $1,000 an event to compete, right? Because you have the Uber to the airport. For me, I'm far from the airport. It's about $75. The flight's $250. You got the Ubers there, event tickets, JnJ Pass, hotel, food, all that. Bottom line, and this definitely will fluctuate. If something's closer, it'll be much less. But then especially if I do anything international, it's going to be, a bit more, maybe even double. So it all balances out. Like Canada is actually quite expensive for me. And so it's just, this stuff adds up. What does that mean? So if you look at the overall journey, right, I think it's good to establish what it is that you'd be willing to pay. In novice, to pass through novice, you're looking at about $5,000. Intermediate, $9,000. Advanced, $11,500. And this is, again, these are averages, okay? And so your experience might vary, but let's look at how much it might vary. So here in the scatter plot, this shows the number of events that it took to reach the threshold. So in this case, the threshold is going from novice to intermediate. And these are the number of days in the said threshold, right? So, and each dot represents a dancer. And so there are some dancers who manage to very quickly hit 2 events and then pass on to intermediate, right? So there are some people who do that. But by and large, we're seeing a lot of people much more in this area, which is, let's see here. Yeah, all in here. So which, that area is, yeah, much more populated. We're looking at 6 events, 8 events, 12. I mean, we even have some people up there with like 13 events, and that's for them to pass through novice. The light dots are follows, dark dots are leaders. Okay, so even best case scenario, it's really difficult to imagine that you would get through for less than $5,000 ish. Here it is, same thing, only going in intermediate. So this is people who are going from intermediate into advanced. You see here that they have 8 to 10 events. And then there's kind of like a line here where people get there early, and then there's some people who really take their time. But by and large, most people get there by about 12 events. And there's, there's a few outliers here and there. And now advanced, this is very sparse, and very few people have moved up from advanced. But these show their distribution. Now I want to take a second to give a shout out to the people who are the big travelers, people who have like grounded out and they've been all over the place. And so we see here, we got Pavel. He's been to 45 events, and then it also shows there. I was curious about, in the real world, does going to a lot of events, is it automatic, right? And what we see here is it's not necessarily automatic. It doesn't necessarily correspond. But yeah, because we have advanced and intermediate, and we have maybe we have 1 all-star in here. Oh, we have 2, but William, I don't know. William's been to a lot of events, and yeah. Anyway, we're here, and then over here, on the right-hand side, we have a lot of we have our follows, and so we can see here that the grind is real. By the way, in looking at this, I was actually surprised at the number of Americans in here. I guess Americans, we will catch a flight when we want to. We definitely go hard. Okay. Next thing I want to mention is that the large events, that they are, I'm going to surmise that the numbers suggest that they are, surmise? Is that the right word? I don't know. I'm just going to say that large events are terrible for moving up. And I'll tell you why. Because there is no tier 4. The most points you can win at any given competition is 15 points. Like no matter how large it gets, it caps out at 15 points. And so I think it's a good idea to aim for that threshold. Okay, when you aim for people where there are 40 competitors. And the reason why is, as you look here, you need at least 40 to get 15 points, but you're competing against 97, right? So you are effectively cutting your odds in half just by just numbers wise, just because unless you are a known person and you're just going to pass through, there's just that your chances of getting passed on to the next round are chopped in half in this situation. So that's just something to be mindful of when you're deciding what to do, especially if you're going to be paying retail. If you're going to be paying $1,000 to go, and if your goal is to level up in Jack and Jill, then you want to, I think you'd want to do your odds, set yourself up for success as much as you can. Like this is an example. This is an event. This is actually in Brazil. Brazil is a very difficult place to compete, but the point is this is close to, here in intermediate, this is close to the bar, for the leaders and the follows. And so here you can see here that the delta is only 15 dancers. And so, yeah, you're in much better position there than you are at the other one. So, okay, let's go back to the mystery of the one event advanced dancers. Like, okay, if you're like me and you saw this chart, you're like, wait a minute, how can advanced dancers only have 1 event under their belt? Like, doesn't it take 2 years to go through novice and 2 years to go through intermediate, and you have to go through like 8, 10, 12 events in order to get there? That's absolutely true. And so let's look into this. Let's dig deeper. And so what I did here is this is a chart of anyone that's competed in the given level. So in this case, it's newcomer. So anyone that's competed in newcomer, I said, hey, let's look at where they started. So any dancer, when their name shows up, where did they first appear? And so for newcomer, it makes sense. 86% they started in newcomer. That when they started there. We have novice, 11% started in novice and they came down to newcomer, and we have a few intermediate people do the same. In novice, 92%, meaning same thing. People that competed in there, where did they start? 92% of them started in novice. 5.4% started intermediate, and then there's a few that are higher up that came down, which isn't that surprising because we have you know, if I'm a leader and then I go through the whole track, I get to advanced. Technically, by the current day rules, I'm allowed to compete as an intermediate follow, but I don't know that my following skills is at an intermediate level. Like, I've focused on leading all these years, and so I would feel more comfortable for myself probably going back to novice, right? So I imagine that's what happened here, and also the rules have changed over the years, and so I think that's a factor. Okay, moving on. So these next charts, they broke my heart. And, well, I'll talk about what happened when I saw these next charts in a second, but here we go. So this is intermediate. So of the competitors in intermediate, 68.4% of intermediate started in intermediate, right? So this can include your teachers. It can include I don't know, it can include people who petitioned, however. But only about 26% of the people in intermediate, like they moved up, right? Or that even then, this doesn't imply that they actually moved up. This just says that they started in novice and they competed in intermediate. So take what you will from that. But that it's so significant, that's just a significant number of people. Okay, and then if we moved into advanced, here we can see 52%. So 52% of the people in advanced, they started in advanced, 39% intermediate, so on and so forth. These are the actual numbers here that I have, and it shows the percentages. And again, these numbers aren't going to be like precisely accurate. But the overall story should be true. And then finally, this is All-Star. 83% of the people in All-Star started in All-Star. Why was this? What does this mean to me? Okay, so what this means to me, well, the next slide will say what it means. Is the connected dances start far ahead of you. This is just written out what I have just described, but you know, I think just after years of training and after years of flying around the world and like really working hard to improve my dance and to like struggle through the you know, fight the good fight, climb through the levels, it's just weird that you finally make it to the advanced level or whatever, the intermediate level, whatever, and you look over to the person to your left and like, oh, this is my first event. Yeah, I don't know. I just am petitioning, or not petitioning. I'm competing. And you're just like, do you know what I had to go through to get here? Like, do you understand how much money and time and what it costs to get here? You know, but it's just a part of the game. I don't know. But yeah, so this just shows the numbers breakdown. So have a look at that. Dig in. So the next question is, how can this be? Like how can dancers get placed, right? Like I call them these mysterious placements or mysterious dancers. And before I click on the next slide, I'm going to mention a case study, right? In order to look into this, we have to look at somebody. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I don't have any beef. In fact, the person I want to mention, very sweet person. I've had no issues, no beef, no issues at all. But I need someone to demonstrate what it seems to be very common in this scene, in these competitions, and why my heart was broken and why I feel so demotivated to compete at this point. But anyway, we'll get there. Okay, so that being said, the next slide. Mysterious advancements, a case study. So let's look at. So we're just going to go off the facts here, right? I'm not going to pretend to know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know. But in 2022, she competed in an intermediate competition here in LA, right? She competed intermediate and it didn't work out, right? That happens. We all have competitions. You dance with somebody and it doesn't go anywhere, right? It falls apart. Okay. Or it doesn't fall apart. Just didn't work out. Okay. So she, I assume, petitioned, didn't work out. There you have it. But somehow 5 months later at the Brazilian Zouk World Championships, she was invited to compete in All-Star. Whoops. She competed in All-Star. And so she got to All-Star, and which is already a bit confusing, because if she was competing in intermediate and didn't get anywhere, how is she allowed to compete in All-Star, especially with the rules around the points? I don't know if the point rule was in place there or not. But long story short, she competed in All-Star, didn't get anywhere, and then she was invited again a year later to compete in All-Star and still didn't get anything, right? So all that, having said all of that, she is now listed in the database as advanced, right? So as someone who had to like fight my way up, I'm like, how does that work? And the answer is, I don't know how that works. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't. In reading of the rules, it doesn't make sense, right? And so I was curious about how common this kind of thing is. Okay, so let's just look. Turns out it looks to be quite common. That this chart on the right here, this shows all of the people. Well, this is just the first few people in All-Star. And it shows the number of points that they have in each division, right? And this is something that'll be available to everyone. There's a link that you'll see. It should be in the description. But it shows that, like most people, they have never competed in novice. They maybe have competed a little bit in intermediate, never in advanced. And yeah, there's just a bunch where, or people that have like started, like here's, I love to death. So she's an amazing dancer, and she deserves, I mean, she like is definitely worthy, but it's just one of those things as another competitor, you're like, wait, how did she go? She pointed out a very media, but how did she only make it to points in advance and then she goes All-Star? You know what I mean? It's just like, but I don't get that advantage. Like, I'm just going to have to climb my way through All-Star if I wanted to, or through advanced if I wanted to do that. So it is what it is. It is what it is, right? I couldn't find where to put this slide in, but this is just to show just the top 60 judges. I mean, we're gonna get into like some top lists in a minute, but this is just one. It didn't have a good place to go, but this just shows who the judges are in the various competitions and the number of events that each of them have judged. Okay, so the 0 and 1 point spike. So I think this explains why in advanced why there's a 0 point spike. And same thing for, and why that spike also shows that there's only one competition is because I think we have a lot of dancers who are just connected to the dance council. I think that they're just getting placed, or they're just allowed to skip through all these levels. And, you know, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. And, you know, I'm a techie. And so these days when I don't know how to feel about something, I ask ChatGPT. I said, hey, ChatGPT, should I feel some kind of way about this? And this is what ChatGPT says. Okay, so I said, hey, why does this matter? Like, and this is what ChatGPT had to say. It said, fairness is foundational to the integrity of any competitive event. When participants believe that results are determined not by merit but by unfair advantages, the credibility of the entire competition is undermined. The perception can deter talented dancers from participating and reduce the competition stature in the dance community. Totally agree. Motivation and participation. Unfair practices can demotivate competitors who feel that no matter how hard they train or how well they perform, they cannot succeed due to bias or favoritism. The demotivation can lead to increased decrease participation over time, reducing the competition's vibrancy and the diversity of talent it attracts. Also couldn't agree more. And finally, the development of the dancers says competitions are opportunities for dancers to test their skills against their peers, receive feedback, and gauge their progress. If the competition is skewed by unfairness, dancers may not receive the honest evaluations they need to improve, potentially stunting their growth as artists. I mean, it just goes back to what I said. Like I spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, like really trying to climb this with the understanding that it was going to be like any intramural sort of sports thing, you know, the softball league, you know what I mean? Like the adult softball league that we all, you know, or was it pickleball or whatever, you know what I mean? That you assume the rules are going to be even for everybody. Doesn't matter. The data is suggesting that there are some issues that should probably be addressed. But if you're looking for some kind of notoriety, not notoriety, but if you're looking for some kind of like you want to like a little badge to pin on yourself in this, there is something you can still do. And that is that the full point run up, it has yet to be completed with an asterisk. So before I say that, shout out to Elena and Bruno. They pointed out from novice to intermediate and advanced. And they hustled it out, and it took them years and years and years and years to do it. A lot of hard work. Shout out to them, and a lot of events. They're in the top event attendees. The only reason why I say that there's an opportunity for new dancers is because the rules have changed since they did it. For them, novice was only 15 points. Now it's 20 points, and so you have a higher bar that you have to hit, and it's a much more competitive environment now than it was then. So if there's someone that really wants to be like the Michael Jordan of Zouk, or like to really like flex up, there is still a window of opportunity. If you want to see that, by the way, there's the link to a lot of this data. It's a spreadsheet down there. Okay, so what does the data tell me? I mean, I've kind of tipped my hand on a lot of it, of what I've learned from a lot, but it just says, if you're not closely connected to the Brazilian Zouk Dance Council, this is a game that, reasonably speaking, I don't think you can win. There are those who get a significant advantage by jumping categories via the petition process, or just simply being placed, just by knowing somebody, or or having the right person that you know get you into a competition where they know you're going to. There's all kinds of things that you observe. Like if you more time you spend on it, the more that you'll observe. I'll leave it at that. The next thing, organically climbing the ranks is expensive. It's about $3,000 to $12,000 per division, and of course, several years for the average dancer. This of course isn't including the cost of training expenses or anything like that. If you wish to compete or level up quickly, you need to do everything you can to avoid novice. Remember, if we look at the dance lifespan, average dance lifespan, even for the people that don't compete, the people that just are one and done, you're still looking at, in a lot of these divisions, like 2 years, total. You're looking at 2 years, maybe 3 years. And so if you really want to climb, you have to be really wise about how you're spending your time, because it isn't, time is finite, energy is finite. We have injuries, we get older, fall in love, have kids, get married, whatever. Like all these things, there are a lot of things that aren't conducive to spending $1,000 a pop to go to a hotel for a weekend. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think there's a few other things about they sell judge training. But if you look at the number of judges, they're all the instructors, and so that doesn't seem to be a wise investment. That's kind of a small thing I noticed. Avoid competing at large events, so on and so forth. I'll make these slides available. You can click through each one of these if you like, if you want to dive into the nitty gritty. But really, it's just in order to compete and get through this process. I mean, really, being hired is the only reasonable way that I can see to climb through these ranks. A lot of people with those high numbers, a lot are remote tech workers, so they can pull it off financially. But for a lot of people, it's just not feasible, or it's just not a thing. Now, All right. I understand my takeaways from this. They're a little grim, right? They're a little dark. I don't mean, you know, I love competing. You know what I mean? This is something that I wish I knew all this before I got into it, but I've enjoyed my many years of competing. And so I just want to mention too that everyone in the dance council that I've experienced, everyone's very sweet. Everyone's very kind. And like I said, I don't have any beefs here. This is just what the numbers are telling me. And I've seen them make rule changes over the years that try to make things a little easier and they try to make the competition better. So I'm hoping that maybe they weren't aware of some of this data, and that maybe this will encourage them to try to right the ship as far as some of these things go, as far as, you know, like the placements, you know, all these things. But I think previously just the stuff hadn't been tracked. Like there was no one, at least if there was anyone that was looking, people were whispering about it and not putting up a video. So I might catch some hate off of posting this, and I hope I don't. But this is just the realities. But anyway, I'm gonna get through it. I've been talking a lot, so we got a few more slides, and we're almost there. But yeah, these rules were inherited from the West Coast swing community from years ago. But the West Coast swing community, they have changed. They've improved a tremendous amount, and they take the rules very, very seriously. From the best I can tell, if you're curious, have a look at their website and their rules, and you can see that it's like, oh no, they take like the scoring, all that stuff very seriously. Petitioning is a rare thing, like with the people that I talked to from West Coast Swing. And yeah, they really, you know, I have more to say on this topic, but I think I'm going to save that for another video. And I just will say, for the Lambada Zouk Dance Council, the new one that's come out, it seems like they're off to a great start, because they just had their first competition yesterday at the time of recording this video, and they used the Pro Division, which I had never understood why in Zouk, why they don't use the Pro Division, which is like the people who are hired to be there, they set them aside, they compete with each other, and then the paying attendees, they compete in the normal competitions. To me, that makes the most sense. In Zouk, we have the system where if you are like you're like a you know, you're like a middle-aged school teacher, and then you're competing against like a 25-year-old professional Brazilian Zouk dancer straight out of Brazil, and it's just like, how you want me to win? Like, how can I win? Yeah, I mean, but that's beside the point. Some people enjoy that aspect of it. I don't mind the challenge, but it definitely is like demoralizing for some. Onward we go. Oh, the sweat, man. I'm nervous about this episode. Okay. Bright side. There are some bright sides. I mean, I shouted out some of these people earlier, but I really just want to give a shout out to, and like some Zoukline awards to some people, I want to give the supporter award to the top 5 dancers who have been supporting all these events. Joshan, Tony, Eric, you know, Jeremy, like these guys, and we got Elena, we got Bryn, Katie, Hermela, Stephanie, man, all these people I know, all wonderful dancers, and they have been to a ton of events. So they have definitely, you know, these events don't happen unless people pay. They pay for them, and they go and they support. So shout out to these dancers for doing that. I want to give out the Quiet Power Award to the women in Zouk. I mean, you look at these numbers, it's just like there's so many more women than men that are going to these events, and at the same time I hear from women, like I mean, obviously not all women, but I hear from some women some things that they wish were different. And so I hope that there's some way that you can communicate with the organizers what it is you want to see. You know, like there's whether it be, yeah, like there's a lot of things I hear from a lot of dancers, which is like it's difficult for a solo female artist to tour. Why is that? I don't know. These events are mostly paid for by women. Seems like the economic power is there to say, hey, bring more solo female dancers. I don't know. But anyway, shout out to the Quiet Power. Shout out to women in Zouk. And then the Grit Award. These people, shout out to them for going hard in the paint and keeping going, persisting, just going. So this list over here, I'll highlight it. So this list, these are people who have tried and still haven't been getting any love from the judges, but they keep trying. They keep showing up and they keep, you know, strapping their shoes on and getting out there. So shout out to them. I am in awe. I mean, honestly, just like, because I have a ton of grit myself, but I don't know if I have that much grit. This is fantastic. Amazing job. So I wanted to come up with my own leaderboard as well, because there's so many people who skip the steps, and I don't respect that quite. To be completely honest, I don't respect that as much as I do the people who have ground it out. So I came up with this metric, which is the Gold Star leaderboard. And Gold Star is like, these are the people who haven't skipped anything, that they pointed out a novice, they pointed out an intermediate, and so on and so forth. And so these are the top 40 dancers that in the intermediate category that they pointed out. Now, this was a tricky one to sort out, because the software that I wrote, it doesn't differentiate between leaders and follows. So there might be some people that qualify but they're not on this list, because my script confuses them, because if they've competed both as leaders and follows and they have like 40 points because they have both and both, they may not show up here. But anyway, long story short, these are some of the top 40. May not be a total list, but this is some of them. Here it is for the advanced category. So yeah, these are all dancers. Are these all? Oh no, these are leaders and follows. Okay, yeah. So shout out to these people that also did not skip anything. They grounded out from start to finish. Shout out to Deanie. Deanie and I came up competing together. Oh, a bunch of people and I have come up. Rochelle, shout out Rochelle. Shout out a bunch of people. Joe Sean, what up? Anyway, a bunch of people. Ronaldo, Elijah, a lot of people. Jerry. Okay. I know a bunch of people. Okay, whatever. And then finally, we got Gold Star up here. Elena and Bruno cutting the path. So big up. Questions for future editions of Zoukline or for other researchers. There's so many questions that I mean, I put out feelers to people to ask them what questions they wanted to have answers to. Tons of people had a lot to say and a lot of questions. Some things I just don't have data for. One of them, which is, there's a question about nationalistic bias. Like, do the Brazilians rate the Brazilians better than everyone else? Or do they like it better or worse? Do non-Brazilian judges have a you know, do they show something different in the judging, like on trend? And I don't have solid data on who's Brazilian and who's not. So that is a tricky one. I'm thinking about. I'm trying to see of if that's something, or you know, or is there something that you can do about that, right? I mean, it just is that, you know, that might just be just a part of the game. It's just that there's always a bit of a handicap. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, these are questions that not only I invite other researchers to dig into the data and have a look at this. And thankfully, the data isn't that difficult to get. If you just open a bottle of wine, take about 2 hours to just download each one of the things, pull it into a database, and you're off to the races. Anyway, I'm not going to read all of these off, but there are several great questions. Like, here's one, do off-roll primary leads, like for example, primary leads competing as follows, do they get a boost from the judges? These are great questions. But yeah, some of these are difficult because of the lack of data, and then, well, with some I have to ponder over. And also, quite honestly, how long is this? I don't even know how long we're in now. We've been recording for a while, so that's for another video. Okay, so are you turned off by Brazilian Zouk Dance Council JnJs, but you still want to taste the blood of your rivals? Well, I have good news for you. JnJs aren't the only game in town. You can do Zouk 16, which is a battle style, and those are usually one-off. The way it works is it's like you have like a bracket, like a basketball or like football brackets, and you have two couples, and then they compete, and then the winner continues on to the next round until you get to a final. Those are a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of people do those. They're a good time. I highly recommend them. And I rarely see anyone be like sad about those. Like those are just a good time. And anyone can do them. You don't have to pay anybody. You don't have to sign up on any website. You can just do it. You just, if you're an organizer, you just make a poster, announce you're going to do it, and then you do it. And the judges can be handpicked. They can be from crowd noise. It can be anything. So those are great. There's Annie and Archie, which is one that Jade Rodriguez came up with. Jade of Zouk Glow in London. I love Jade. She's fantastic. So that hers is similar to Jack and Jill, but it focuses a lot more on the random aspects of Jack and Jill. I don't want to give out all her secret sauce, so you can contact her. In the slides, there'll be a link on the slides. You can reach out to her for more information on that and how to do that. Something that we do here at Cali Zouk is we have like the Comfy Cup is an event we came up with. I'm sure I understand there are other places that do something similar, but this is the version that we came up with, which is all the attendees of an event, they'll show up and they'll get an X number of tickets, let's say 5 tickets. And then throughout the night, when they dance with someone, they'll learn their name and they'll put a ticket. They'll vote for whoever was the most comfy dance. And then whoever has the most tickets at the end of the night, they win a prize. So that's nice. It's sweet. It gets more people dancing, more people sort of switching partners, so no one feels left out. It's great. And then there's, of course, you can invent games of your own. Like you're not limited to any of this stuff. You can just invent something. You can do a Jack and Jill clone. You can mix the formats. One is interesting to me, I kind of want to try with my events, is like X Factor, where you have judges and they give feedback, and that feedback that everyone can hear, or things that they were vibing with or not vibing with, or something that went kind of sideways or whatever. Stuff like that sounds like a lot of fun to me. And but all in all, you can invent it, try it out, have fun with it. I mean, after all, no one can tell you how to enjoy your dance life. You can just do what you do. Let's say you have heard all this and you still want to compete. Well, the next video I'm going to try to share my 10,000 hours of competing and things I think that would be helpful for a lot of people in competition. So stay tuned for that. If possible, I'll even just update the slides to include that video. So thank you again for joining me. This was a major project. It took months. Well, it was years of planning. Months of research and procrastination in order to actually make it a reality. So thank you all for joining me. And also, I am appreciative of the Brazilian Zouk Dance Council for coming up with this structure, warts and all. It has provided a lot of fun for me, and it's been a really fun adventure. And I hope that they will continue to rework and improve the system so that it can continue for another 10 years. I mean, competition can be really fun, especially when it's can be trusted to be fair for everyone that shows up. So before I go, I have a question. Are you interested in more personalized information? There's like stats or anything like that. If so, I mean, I'm considering building some kind of a tool that would allow people to see their own stats, or maybe even more like event stats, just stats in general. But in order to do that, it requires a significant amount of time and resources and energy. And so, I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to do it for free. But I'm just curious if there's interest, I'll put more time into it. If not, we'll just leave it as it is, and this can just be yours to go off into the world. And then, I mean, the Excel, I'm going to send out there's a Google Doc link here, a Google Sheet link, so you can click through that and look at the data there. There's interesting things in that data, things to be explored. But yeah, if you have more interests, please let me know. I would be happy to consider what to do next with this data. You can reach me on the Zoukline server, which is a Discord channel. Feel free to join that server, and then, or you, of course, have Instagram at AdamJCraig or at CaliZouk. Thank you for joining me. If you have time, come to LA, come dance with us. We have a thing right now. It's every Wednesday. It might change, but we have a social every Wednesday. We would love to see you. We've had a lot of people pass through town and stop by, and we love to see you. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Oh my God. Truly, thank you. What a project. I really hope you find this useful, and I hope it can inform you better in competing in the future. Yeah, I appreciate you spending your time with me, and that's it. That's it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.